Chapter 6. The famed Union stockyards on the south side of Chicago provided jobs for hundreds of immigrants, whereas Upton Sinclair slandered the industry to further his socialist agenda. 21-year-old Rennie Kelly came home from his night shift at the stockyards at 9 in the morning to see his mother, Sally, sitting on her bed crying. It had only been 2 weeks since his father, Harley, had been gored by a bull while unloading a cattle car and laid to rest in the cemetery down the street. Now, Rennie's paycheck was the only means of support for his family. His little brother and sister were still in grade school. The family lived in the same company-owned house for 10 years and got by all right. But they could never save any money from Harley Kelly's meager earnings. "It's okay, Mom. Everything will be okay." Rennie gave her a squeeze. "The rent is due tomorrow, and the icebox is empty. I have no money. I don't know how we will get by without your father's paycheck," she wailed. "Don't worry, Mom. I've been working an extra job, and I can handle everything just fine. Here is enough for the rent and $10 for groceries." He reached into his pocket and handed her the money. "I can give you more next week. I'll be sure we keep our place and have plenty to eat." What a wonderful surprise. "I wondered where you have been going when you clean up and leave the house as soon as you come home from work. I thought you must be playing, but here is my responsible boy working to support his family. Now I'm worried about you getting enough sleep. I do need to clean up and get to my other job." "Don't worry, Mom. I can take care of you, Clarissa and Billy." Rennie retired to his room. He had not slept well for several days. He was dead tired, though his mind was in high gear. In his waking hours and dreams, he replayed the auspicious morning, changing his and his family's lives forever. He saw himself walking home from work. A black Lincoln was parked on the street. He could hear a siren in the distance behind him. Another black Lincoln sped by him and slowed briefly near the parked Lincoln. Although it did not come to a stop, a man from the parked Lincoln tossed a duffel bag into the rear side window of the moving Lincoln. The bag bounced off the top of the door and onto the street. The parked Lincoln took off and made an immediate left turn. A cop car steamed around the corner and followed the Lincoln that had been parked just as it was going out of sight. Rennie quickly stepped out into the street, picked up the dropped bag, and walked hurriedly into an adjacent office building. Nearby, he heard gunshots, followed by a crash. In the elevator, Rennie rose to the 4th floor, where he exited and found a men's room. He entered, locked the door, rushed into a stall, and opened the bag. It was full of paper money on top and coins on the bottom. He stuffed as much money as he could into his pockets and reclosed the bag. He was only 4 blocks from home, but he was reluctant to be seen with the bag, especially with the sound of sirens blaring down the streets. Rennie stood on the toilet tank. On his tiptoes, he lifted a ceiling tile and slid it aside. The hole was barely big enough, but he carefully rendered the bag into the space between the upstairs floor and the false ceiling tiles. Rennie replaced the tile as someone twisted the doorknob. "Just a minute," he hollered, getting down and flushing the toilet. After washing his hands, Rennie opened the door to a man squirming in wait. "Sorry, man. I hurried as fast as I could." Rennie apologized. "Thanks," the man replied, running into the stall. Rennie returned to the elevator, rode it down to the ground floor, and quickly trotted home. After waiting 3 days, Rennie returned to the 4th floor men's room, fetched the duffel, and packed it home. Feeling paranoid, fearing every step, Rennie tried to convince himself he was just a guy on the street with a duffel bag. Since then, each morning when he came home from his graveyard shift, Rennie locked his bedroom door, sorted denominations, and secured rubber bands around $1,000 bundles. After he finished counting the $92,342.84, he hid it between floor joists through a hole in the floor he cut under his bed. Wanting to transfer the money to a safer location, He opened small savings accounts at various banks and rented safe deposit boxes to store nondescript brown bags. He kept only enough money at home for living expenses. Rennie, at 5 feet, 10 inches tall, was raw-boned and strong. Wispy black hair curled on top of his high forehead. Thin black eyebrows arched over large brown eyes. His narrow, pointed nose jutted out above his mustache and neatly trimmed beard. At work, he wore bib overalls, red wing boots, a blue cotton shirt, and a felt cowboy hat that had seen better days. When he took his girl to the movies, he wore his only pair of good Levi's, a dress cotton shirt, and brown polished cowboy boots. Girls thought he was cute, but he had been in love with his girlfriend Marta since he was a toddler. Today, Rennie wanted to meet a stock and commodities broker to open an account so he could buy some RCA and Ford stock. He also needed help learning how to trade commodities. Trading grains made sense because he spent the last 4 years of his life feeding corn, wheat, oats, barley, and hay to livestock. Grains and meats were his life. He wanted to learn to trade the commodities he shoveled, waded in, and cared for at his daily job. Listening to the morning farm report, he heard about the current state of the markets and their potential direction, based on weather patterns, acreage planted, and the availability of cattle, sheep, and hogs compared to demand. At the brokerage house, Rennie was introduced to Chevel Zumberg, a broker, who led him back to his desk and listened to what Rennie wanted to do. Chevel assured Rennie he could help him invest in the markets that interested him. Rennie opened an account with $1,000, and discussed with Chevel how to invest it.